Hello everyone, I hope that you are doing well. So without wasting any time, let's move to the newspaper. First we will identify the important news and then we'll move on to the analysis section. So this is the Hindu, Thursday, April 7, 2022, Delhi edition. So we'll be identifying the most important news with respect to our examination. Okay, India offers help to end Russian-Ukraine conflict. Okay, India has offered something. We'll see what has India offered, right? Has no reason to resign, not important. Fixed date for election, not important. CN denies presence of new center device. Okay, this can be important. Not per se examination, just know the news. Okay, so let's see here on second page. Okay, 30-year-old man was not a girl moved down by car on way to no. Bank account name of deceased king. No. Okay, Kashmir gets its first virtual e-museum. We have to see what it is. Fine. On clearance to judge for foreign visits. Nothing here. Nothing here. Nothing here as well. Okay, repairing the complex India-Nepal ties. There needs to be quiet dialogue to resolve the many differences. New Delhi needing to be sensitive and generous. Again, if you want, you can read it, but you won't be able to write many things in your mains examination, right? As far as interview is concerned, you must read it, but as far as mains is concerned, just know about it. I'm not going to read it because it won't do any good to me as far as the exam is concerned. Safety net not required. A candidate can cast parrot about CBI. It may be important. We'll see what it is. The child at the center, mission Vatsala, very important. How UAP not required. Sending a strategic message not required. SDFC Limited and SDFC Bank merger. We'll just see the gist. If anything very important comes, then we'll read the thing. Okay. And here is realism versus liberalism in international relations. We'll give a read to the gist to see what is there. Okay. There is nothing here. Yes. Poverty hit mother sells infant in Andhra Pradesh. Now this is really disturbing. I am very sorry state. Fine, we'll see what had happened here. And it could also be a case study, right? Okay, there is nothing here. Fine. Nothing here as well. Hall in tie up to convert aircraft passenger filled flight to be transformed into tanker transport with Israeli cooperation. Just give it a brief reading what it is. Reverse. Now this can be important data. We'll see this what it is because there are a lot of foreign tours that have been proposed. We'll see why. Now we have to see this center extend relief to Tibetan community committee for 5 years. We'll see what it is. Okay. Nothing here. Again, here is also. I don't see any important news with respect to our examination. Fine. Cut Saudi for Russian barrels. Okay, we'll just give it a read. Okay, then there is this sports page. There is nothing much on the sports page as well. So with this we end identifying the most important news, and we now go to or move to our section of news analysis. Okay. So India offers help to end Russia-Ukraine conflict. In what capacity? Let us read. Russia is a very important partner, says External Affairs Minister. India will be glad to help in bringing about the resolution for crisis in Ukraine. Speaking in Lok Sabha during discussion under Rule 193 regarding the crisis in Ukraine and its implication, Dr. Jaishankar said that Russia is a very important partner, but also held that India is against conflict. He acknowledged the support from Russia, Ukraine, and even Indian national based in Eastern Europe during Operation Ganga. Operation Ganga was to evacuate Indian students from Ukraine. In terms of diplomacy, India continues to press forcefully for an immediate cessation of hostilities and an end to violence. Okay, we encourage talks. Fine. So what we are saying that the two parties must talk. including that of their level of precedence. The Prime Minister has also spoken to them both. This was precisely the message that was conveyed to Russian Foreign Minister when he was in Delhi. If India can be of any assistance in the matter, we will be glad to contribute. Stabilizing transactions. Our effort today is to stabilize economic transactions between India and Russia because this is very important for us. Russia is a very important partner in a variety of areas. Fine. And these areas include what? Mainly defense is one of the major areas. Russia continues plays in India's defense sector. Look, they have also written. Russia continues to remain the largest arms supplier of India despite strong competition from France, Israel, United States and other Western countries. The specific remarks on economic ties with Russia came after Congress MP Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary sought an explanation on how India would conduct the business with Russia as it was hit by Western sanctions. Okay. So he has said this. Center nice presence of COVID variant. Let's see. Union Health Ministry on Wednesday refuted claims that has reported in the first case of COVID-19 XZ variant in Mumbai. The rebuttal came shortly after Brihan Mumbai Municipal Corporation said that the result of 11th batch of next generation genome sequencing done on 230 COVID-19 patient has found only one case of XZ. The patient was 15 years old, double vaccinated woman who arrived from South Africa in February. Fine. So center denies the presence. Let's move to the next page. There was nothing here. There was nothing. Yes, there was this one news here. Kashmir to get its first e-museum. Let's see what it is. The lifetime dedication of a woman educationist is beginning to bear fruits. A rare virtual museum in Sopore, 40 km from Srinagar, will showcase the lifetime collection of women Kashmiri educationist Atika Banu, who has created a huge repository of artifacts through door-to-door collection. Okay. She died at the age of 77 in 2017, leaving behind a collection that throws light on life and custom of 18th and 19th century rural Kashmir. So it is related to 18th and 19th century rural Kashmir. Fine. The Alif Foundation, an international organization involved in protecting cultural heritage, approved the grant for an e-museum as part of post-COVID rehabilitation program. Okay. So Alif Foundation has granted for an e-museum as part of post-COVID rehabilitation program. Fine. After that, it is all the story written. If you want, you can read. I don't think that would be very important for our examination. Yes, this could become a case study, that opening of e-museum. This can be a good idea. Opening e-museum. This will lead to revenue generation, which can be distributed among different stakeholders, right? And plus selling of goods and merchandise, right? So this could generate revenue and it could be distributed among different stakeholders. That would lead to what? That would lead to definitely betterment of the community, right? So after this, let's see if anything else is remaining. On this page there was no more news. On this page also no more news. This page also nothing. Now we'll do the editorial and explained page, op-ed and text and context page at last. Fine, let's analyze the news first. Was there anything? Yes, this was a very sad news. Poverty hit mother sell infants in Andhra Pradesh. Poverty has forced a few women in Andhra Pradesh to sell their babies. In 2 cases reported in the past 3 or 4 days, the women gave a statement that their family members sold their babies unable to care for them. Okay, so why they sold them? Because the family members were unable to care for them. Earlier we had seen cases of childless couple resorting to illegal adoption and buying babies, but now infants are put up for sale in the market by some gang in the state. Look, this is very sorry state of state. So they are selling the infants like objects. This is pathetic. Child protection officer said a 3-day-old boy changed hand with rupees 1 lakh according to the biological parents in private hospital. Okay, the doctor was at the center of the racket. The baby father Ganta Arun Kumar and grandmother Ganta Mary reportedly sold the baby to the doctor for 2 lakh. The baby was then sold to Visakhapatnam couple for 3 lakh. The infant was eventually sold to an Anakapali couple for 5 lakhs. District Protection Officer Iluru said that mother of the baby said Dr. Biju Babu has convinced her to get admitted to Sheshamma nursing home for delivery, from where baby was taken. The doctor broke the deal. Another baby girl aged 2 months was sold for 60,000 in Illuru 2 months ago. Okay, so this is a case study. Okay, case study of poverty and of vicious cycle of poverty and what do we call shoshan in English, and let's see, shoshan in English, exploitation, yes, and exploitation of poor. Okay, this is a classic case study. Fine. Now let's see if anything else is remaining on this page. I don't see any more news on this page. Okay, so on this page, let's see, there is nothing. HAL to tie up to convert aircraft passenger flight to be transformed into tanker transport with Israeli collaboration. Fine. In a significant development, Hindustan Aeronautical Limited and Israeli aerospace industry have entered into a MOU to convert civil passenger aircraft to multi-mission tanker transport. Fine. Under the pact signed recently, HAL will convert the pre-owned civil aircraft into refueling aircraft with cargo and transport capability. Fine. Just know this. There is nothing much. So from whom it is? Israel contribution, right? And what it will do? Passenger flights will be transformed into a tanker transport. 971 lost life while cleaning Seversia tanks. Total 971 lost their life in sewers and septic tanks since 1993. The year law prohibiting employment of manual scavenger was enacted. Okay, so this is also a example or data. What is the data? About 1000 people killed since what? 1993 while cleaning of sewers tank etc. ठीक है, this means manual scavenging has taken how many lives? About 1000 lives since 1993. Stand on Ukraine government planning diplomatic outreach. As differences with US, UK, EU, all allied partners grow over India's position on Russia and Ukraine, the government is planning a number of high-level diplomatic meetings in next few months. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and Defense Minister Rajnath Singh will travel to Washington for 2+2 ministerial talks with Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and Defense Secretary General Lloyd Austin, and other meetings from April 11 to 13, and visit Tokyo later this month for another 2+2. Means one is with the US, other with Japan, and one more is with Australia. British Prime Minister Johnson is expected to visit India in April 21 and 22, while Prime Minister Modi is himself expected to travel Germany for bilateral meeting to Denmark. Where he is going? Germany, Denmark, and Quad Summit. For Quad Summit he is going to Tokyo. The sources stress that each of these visits has been planned for some time and could not take place earlier because of pandemic. Okay, while the program is still being finalized, officials said they are discussing a possible summit in Gujarat for Mr. Johnson and Mr. Modi. The two leaders are expected to sign a number of agreements with the official putting a breakthrough on India-UK FTA talks, right? Mr. Johnson, who has been at forefront of economic strictures and actions against Russia in past few weeks, is definitely expected to discuss India's position on Ukraine and Modi government decision to buy more oil at discounted price and set up rupee-ruble payment mechanism. Mr. Modi is expected to travel to Germany on May 1 and 2 and hold biannual intergovernmental meeting on his first German Chancellor. Meeting his first with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who has been leading European Union action on Russia talks over Ukraine. Fine. So there will be a lot of meetings taking place in coming time. Why? It is also scheduled, and India's position on Russia-Ukraine crisis should be made clear to the world. Scheme was extended after Galwan. Okay, Central extends relief to Tibetan Committee by 5 years. The Union government has extended scheme that provide 40 crore grant in aid to Dalai Lama Central Tibetan Relief Committee for another 5 years up to fiscal year 25-26. Annual grant. The scheme was extended after Galwani incident in June 2020 where 20 soldiers were killed in violent clash with Chinese PLA. BJT. Okay, the scheme provided an annual grant of 8 crores to CTRC to meet administrative expenses of settlement and offices and other welfare expansion of Tibet refugees, saying that Tibetan settlement spread across 12 states UT in the country. Okay. Let's see if any more news is left. Nothing on this page. Maybe there was one news. Okay, moves come as kingdom rises prices. So India is going to cut the Saudi barrels for Russian barrels. Why? Because Saudis have increased the prices. Fine. What is there? The same thing is there. Russian oil is becoming cheaper and cheaper, so India will be buying that. As simple as that. And so with this, we come to the end of the news analysis section. There was not much news today, and now we move to the editorial analysis. Okay. So this is the editorial, the child at the center. Mission Vatsalya must bring together services and structure to help the children in distress. Okay. Scheme designed for social good to do well on intent. Okay. So he's saying that scheme that are designed for social good do well on intent. Fine. But their success depends on whether they are built on principle of sustainability. So on what the success depends. Now these points can be written in exam very well. Okay. They built on principles of sustainability and work with the structures of accountability. Fine. So two qualities he is saying, sustainability and accountability. Fair enough. While the center intend to provide integrated benefits to children and women is behind the comprehensive revamping of Department of Women and Children scheme. It is the regime constructed with rules that will ensure maximizing benefit for the stakeholder, women and children. Okay. Mission Vatsalya, which has been operationalized, is one of the new triad of the scheme along the Mission Shakti and Poshan. Fine. So three schemes they are talking about, Mission Shakti and Poshan, that aims to secure a healthy and happy childhood for every child. Okay. Components under Mission Vatsalya. What are the components? Include statutory bodies, service delivery structures, institutional care services, non-institutional community-based care, emergency outreach services, training and capacity building. The impact of this is on one of the pillars of India Child Protection Scheme, that is the Child Line has been giving child rights activists sleepless night. Find what it is trying to say. So components under Mission Vatsalya are what? Statutory body, service delivery structures, institutional care services, okay, and non-institutional community-based care. Fair enough. Emergency outreach service, yes. Training and capacity building. The impact of this is this on one of the pillars of India's child protection service, the Child Line, has been giving child rights activists sleepless night. Why so? What are the impact? Child Line 1098, the 24-hour toll-free helpline for children in distress, will be manned by the Home Affairs Ministry under Mission Vatsalya. Union Minister Smriti Irani said last year, citing the need to preserve data sensitivity. Okay, so it is going on the lines of data sensitivity as well. Now, Child Line has been in operation for over 25 years, growing gradually to become one of the largest global networks to assist and rescue children in distress. It has functions as public-private partnership between government and civil society organizations to provide a first response at safety net and kick-start the process of rescue and rehabilitation of children. Okay, and do what? Kick-start the process of rescue and rehabilitation. Okay. The roadmap to implement the scheme is not yet available, but understood that police personnel will first answer the call, handing over the implementation, okay, to NGOs later. So first touch point will be police personnel, and later it will be handed over to NGOs, handing over to NGOs. These files in the face of facts invoked while setting up Child Line in 1996. Children do not feel comfortable confiding in police personnel. It also sought to reduce the burden of police force by invoking assistance only if the circumstances necessitated it. Fine. It was proven beyond doubt during the short-lived experiment in Chennai around 2003, when child line calls were diverted to all women police stations. They were inundated with calls, hampering regular work. Okay, so what was this? How it increased the workload of police force? There was experiment in 2003 when child line calls were diverted to all women police station. There were a lot of calls that hampered the regular work. Sometimes all the children wanted to spend sometimes talking to someone. Okay, or they were making multiple blank calls before they picked up the courage to tell all. In many cases, police intervention was not needed at all. The old system was hurriedly revived and order restored. Okay, the center will do well to incorporate these responses as it set out a roadmap for key aspects of child protection. Above all, it must consider the issue from perspective of key beneficiary of this scheme, that is child, and make it sure that his or her safety, security and happiness are ensured in bond of trust. Okay, these are the factors: trust, necessarily going beyond the letter of law. So it is talking about, okay, don't get one thing, why this article has come. This means why suddenly this mission Vatsalya propped up in the news. It was not yesterday or some days before. What is the, let me search some news about this. What is going on? Mission Vatsalya. Let's see what are the news. The child at the center. Okay, Women and Children Development Ministry hold zonal conferences with the state and UT under 3 umbrella mission. Therefore, okay, so there were some conferences with the state and UTs, and this led to coming up of this news. Fine. So, so child should be the center of Mission Vatsalya that must bring together services and structure to help children in distress. So, what should be the aim of this mission Vatsalya? Should be to help children in distress. But what happens is that intent is always good, but implementation is not always up to the mark, which leads to ultimately what? Which leads to failure, not exactly failure, not expected success of the scheme. Okay, it is saying that only, and it is one of the triad of the Mission Shakti portion 2.0. Fine. So there is nothing else here. Okay. Now let's move to this next editorial, a candid conversation about caged parrot. Okay, who is the caged parrot? CBI. Fine. We'll give it a look. If the CBI is to tread the path of virtue, it should have a strong leader. Obviously, any institution that treads a path of virtue should have a strong leader with a distinct belief in law and ethics. Okay, so there will be some points about ethics and law in this. We must read it. CGI must be lauded for his candid appraisal recently of pathetic state of India's investigating agency. Last week in Delhi, while delivering the annual DP Kohli Memorial Talk organized by CBI, the CGI minced no word in condemning the utter subordination of agencies to executive and its disastrous consequences for cause of justice. DP Kohli was the first director of CPI. Okay, this is what we came to know from this. After agency was named CBI in 1963 from the earlier special police establishment. The man of impeccable character, he was faceless and fearless and a model to be emulated by his successor. Judiciary gaze is crucial. CGI has not said anything new at the lecture that we in India do not already know. But coming as it did from the heat of Indian judiciary, his stern warning that investigating agencies will pay a heavy price for their utter willingness to stoop to please politicians should be taken seriously by all outfits, especially the CBI, which has had a patchy record with regard to political interference in sensitive investigation. Okay, so CGI has said what? CGI has said that the utter willingness to stoop and please politicians by these investigating agencies will have very serious outcome, disastrous outcome for the country at large. The CGI called upon investigation to stand up to unethical pressure in order not to betray the trust response in them by the public. Okay, so what CGI said that such institutions whom the public trust, okay, should stand up to the unethical pressures like those from politicians and executives that demands services out of the law. Okay, in order to not betray the trust reposed in them by the public. He even dropped a hint that if middle and senior level investigation deviated from the path of objectivity and neutrality, they would pay for it dearly. So he has also hinted that there would be a heavy price if the senior level in the middle and senior level investigation deviated from the path of objectivity and neutrality. We have already seen how Supreme Court of India and High Court have often admonished investigators for their sloppiness and deviation from ethics. Therefore, we need a strong Supreme Court and equally strong High Courts to keep our investigator on a straight and narrow path. Okay. Some change. There is no denying the fact that CBI has been grossly misused by successive governments. This is why December 1997, another fearless judge, Dr. J.S. Verma, has lambasted the then CBI director and so-called Hawala case, rebuking him for stalling the investigation at will, thereby sending inappropriate signal to the subordinates in the crucial investigation. Justice Verma was so provoked by the state of affairs that he went on to prescribe a new clinical procedure for selection of CBI chief. Okay, so Justice Verma has given what? Prescribed a new clinical procedure for selecting, prescribed a new procedure, don't say clinical, it is nothing related to operation or what, okay, for selection of CBI chief, giving him also a much needed and fixed tenure of 2 years, during which he could not be removed by the government. It may not be exaggeration to say that earlier CBI directors were changed at will of almost like how one would wear the new garments every day. This mandatory tenure was meant to be to insulate the CBI director from caprice of executives. Fine. So this mandatory tenure would lead to what? It will make it independent from the executive whims and fancies. The process has since been expanded to include the CJI in the selection panel. Okay. It will be incorrect to assert that all this has transformed the CBI into an apolitical and objective body. Meticulous supervision by the Supreme Court in some important cases has made more than a marginal difference to the honesty of investigation. There is palpable fear among the CBI officers that judiciary could intervene where an aggrieved person to prove that an investigator has been arbitrary and dishonest. Okay, there are palpable fears among CBI officers. CBI officers know this fear that judiciary can intervene any time when in the cases where aggrieved person is the aggrieved person to prove that an investigator has been arbitrary and dishonest. Okay, so judiciary can anytime intervene where that judiciary could anytime intervene where an aggrieved person is there, so that it could be proved that investigator has been arbitrary and dishonest and not followed the path of ethics. It will be unfair to the CBI to say that its investigation has not acquired any greater uprightness than before, even after the many reprimands that it has received from higher judiciary. Fine. My view is also that the allegations of political interference has been blown out of proportion because only 10% of the cases handled by the CBI have political overtones. Okay, so this is one of the data. It could be written as a counter to some of the present challenges. Okay, if the question comes that revamping of CBI versus getting a new agency or something like that, or overall internal security pattern, then this data can be written. A bright spot and lows, the CBI now has some of the brightest Indian police service officers in its higher echelons. None of them may be expected to be reckless and sacrifice their careers by bending to unethical pressure from the director or from the government. However, it is not enough in middle rung. Supervisors alone are straight forward. There needs to be a strong and virtuous leader who will not only be honest but also stick to the neck out to protest his deputies. If and when confronted by an unscrupulous political heavyweight, if the CBI has tread the path of virtue, it should have the strongest leader. If CBI has to treat the path of virtue, if CBI has to go the path of virtue, it should have the strongest leader with a distinct belief in the law and ethics. So it is saying that higher rung has a lot of IPS officers who would not sacrifice their career and all those things for just some political pressure, but until they get a leader who has a very strong virtue, who has a very strong and a distinct belief in law and ethics, till then CBI trading on the path of virtue is quite difficult. Unfortunately, in recent years, 2 directors brought ignominy to CBI. They have proved that whatever the court may do to enforce discipline and adherence to the law, there are odd leaders who could subvert the system. Little can be done to move away from this unfortunate situation until there are bold, independent persons heading investigating agencies and who will reform with the executives if it tries to intimidate junior officer, right? My own experience is that one, okay, he is R.K. Raghavan is a former CBI director who now teaches policing and criminal justice at Jindal. Okay, he is himself is a former CBI director. Okay, my own experience is that one stands up to explain to a prime minister why particular course of action suggested by a junior minister or someone in ruling party was unacceptable. Then one has shown the right path to one subordinate within the organization. Fine. It is equally true that a prime minister will support you 9 times out of 10 if you present your views in a rational and reasonable manner. If the director is unable to display even this element of courage, he should not be heading the organization. So the author is saying that it is equally true that prime minister will support 90% of the time if the views presented are rational and reasonable, are in reasonable manner, right? But if the director is unable to display even these elements of courage, then he should not be heading such important organization. If this honest approach to investigation does not get fused internally, mere tinkering with the criminal law and procedure to appoint head of important criminal justice organization will be of no avail. Okay, so he is saying that if this honest approach is not internalized, then just tinkering with criminal laws and procedures, just struggling with these things and just changing or creating new ideas with criminal laws and procedure will be of no use. It is not that CJI and the other judges are unaware of some investigating officers swearing from the right path at the instance of a small time politician, but they are helpless in their effort to stem the rot, because many in the higher judiciary do not want to exceed their beliefs and upset things. There have also been some big fish who have been caught in times of caught in the net of investigation. A former Chief Minister of Bihar and former Home Minister of Maharashtra are example. But given the magnitude of the problem, the steps taken so far to check the dishonesty in the higher echelons of the government are only cosmetic. Okay, so till date, whatever have been done is more cosmetic than structural. This is why I am still cynical. However much the judiciary stand by law enforcement outfit, little will change in terms of public servant, including popular and elected ministers, curbing the unabated corruption in the country. Okay, what is needed? Finally, I do not endorse the CGI proposal of an umbrella organization that will oversee all investigation agencies. So he do not endorses this idea, and the idea of CGI's proposal of an umbrella organization who will oversee the investigating agency. This idea was meant to avoid having multiple agencies looking into the same set of allegations. Apart from its impracticality, such a novel body could generate its own problem of turf wars and ego clashes. Okay, so such a novel, such body will, such new body, such a recent body will lead to what? It could have its own problems, and the problems could be like turf war or ego clashes. I would rather have focused on the weeding out of dishonest among the officers and rewarding those who have shown and proven themselves to be honest and professionally innovative. Okay, rather than the author suggests that whatever we have, we should try to revamp that. We should try that the present structure should be the dishonesty from the present structure should be struck off, and how it can be done? It can be done by finding those officers and awarding those officers who are professionally innovative and honest. Okay, it is a good article. There are certain points we can write it down fine in our examination. So with this we have done the editorial page. Let's move on to the op-ed page. Let's see what is there on the op-ed page. Nothing. Text and context. Let's give the reading to this gist part. Okay, the mortgage lender HDFC Limited and India's largest private sector bank HDFC Bank. Okay, then HDFC Limited is a mortgage lender. Fine. And HDFC Bank announced their mega merger. Under the terms of the deal, HDFC Bank will be 100% owned by public shareholders, while existing shareholders of HDFC Limited will own 41% of a stake in HDFC Bank. Post merger, the mortgage lending business gets access to HDFC Bank's current and saving account deposit, while are lower cost fund, which are lower cost fund. Yes, they are. For HDFC Bank, every home loan customer can tap to become bank customer. Okay, so two-way benefit is there. One is for limited, HDFC Limited, other is for HDFC Bank. HDFC Limited will get what? HDFC Limited will get the CASA, CSA, current and saving accounts from bank, so that it has outreach to cheaper funds. And what will bank get? New customers. Why? Because every person who is taking a collateralized loan from this mortgage, it is written here, to become bank customer. So every customer of this HDFC Limited will become bank's customer. The regulatory framework of NBFC industry has been moving closer to harmonize with banking sector regulatory framework. If you are a large NBFC, it makes more sense to be merged with a bank, because banks are more tightly regulated and have far more oversight of the RBI. Okay, so becoming a bank will give you more oversight of RBI, which will be good for your growth. Fine, no need to read that, that is irrelevant here. Realism versus liberalism in international relations. We'll have to see this. It is not very important, but just have a look what it comes. Proponents of liberalism emphasizes on internal characteristics of state, okay, which they argue impact state external policies. With the liberal framework, there are three different but interconnected theoretical approaches: economic interdependence, democratic peace, and international institutions. Okay. Realists consider nation state as primary actors in the world, which is basically an anarchic place. Okay, so what does realist consider? Nation as a primary actor in the world, which is basically an anarchic place with no supreme authority to maintain order. There are three main streams of realist theory: human nature realism, defensive realism, and offensive realism. Both theories try to understand the behavior of state, especially the great powers, from different perspectives. So what does this say? Liberalism says that a state, which internal characteristics of a state, okay, impact a state external policy, means it tries to understand state from inside and its policies as a reaction, as a response of, as a nature of these inside characteristics. Fine. So it says that liberalism studies what? Internal character of state, which ultimately decides the external policies of state. And what does this, the other one, which is realist, they study the external environment which causes the, okay, realist, what did they do? They study the external environment which ultimately leads to what? Which leads to creation, which leads to response from state. Okay. So friends, I really hope that you like this video. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe our channel and share this video with your friend. Also, keep studying hard, keep following your dreams, and keep tuned to our channel. Comment below for any suggestion. Till then, goodbye, good luck, keep studying hard and follow your dreams.